Hey everyone, how's it going? My name's Ehan. I'm the head of global growth for the Founder Institute. We have an exciting global webinar planned out for you. It's with Mano Kulas. I hope I said that correctly. Um, he's going to be talking about why VC should invest more in immigrant startup founders. If you've been with us, I think over the last few months, we've really changed the format of these webinars. I come on, I do the introductions, and then the instructor gives, or sorry, the presenter gives like a 20-25 minute presentation. We'll do some audience Q&A. Please use the Q&A button on the right-hand side. It's right next to the message box. So you click that and you can feed us your questions. We'll do maybe 20 minutes of Q&A, and then we'll do some open networking for the last 10-15 minutes. So please stick around for that. Apart from that, it should be a pretty exciting session. We had about 300 people sign up, so I think we'll get about 100-150 people to join. While that is happening, let us know in the chat where you guys calling in from. We have a pretty global audience. I think we usually get a few different ones coming in. I'm based in Dubai, UAE. Yeah, okay, it's coming in. We have Vancouver, Canada, Las Vegas, Nevada, Portugal, Nassau, Bahamas. Wow, Stockholm, Germany, Macedonia. Okay, it's coming. It's coming. Awesome. We have a pretty good audience for us today. I guess, Mano, you're already on stage, correct? I think I see you.
Yep, I'm here. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. What I'll do is I'm going to run the poll now, and then maybe if you want to, I'll give a little bit of an intro to yourself, and then we can kick off your presentation if that works.
Yeah, absolutely. Let me just.
So while you're looking to share your screen, folks,
Yeah.
I just threw a poll out there. So I said, what descriptions fit you best? Are you a founder, investor, VC, or other? So that will give Mano a little bit of insight on who he's talking to today. And then he will kind of shortly present. Okay, so Mano, we have about 40 votes in. 78% is saying that they're founders, 4% is an investor, another 2% is VC, and then you have 15% that's other. So you have more of a founder audience that's here.
Amazing. That's great.
Yeah, I hope that's helpful for you. The last housekeeping is that everyone can see there's some emojis at the bottom. Please use the emojis to show us yeah, exactly. Show us the love, show us the anything you find interesting. That's the good way to keep us engaged and give the feedback to the speaker as well. All right, we just hit over 100 people live. I'm going to hop off. Mado, really, really excited to see you and hear what you have to say today.
Great. Yeah. Thanks for having me, and hi to everyone around the globe. It's great to be here, and excited to talk about why invest in immigrant founders. Here we go. Great. Hopefully you can see my screen. If not, just let me know in the chat. But yeah, my name is Mano Kulasingam. I am a first-generation immigrant from Sri Lanka. I call Canada home now, and a bit of a story about myself. Sri Lanka, as some of you may know, had been through a civil war. It started in 1988, and I was around nine years old, and so and there was a bloody civil war, and just being through that experience. Fortunate enough that my parents were able to get our family out of Sri Lanka and move to Canada. And
Mano,
yeah.
Sorry, something happened. We can't see you anymore, but we can see your background, and your audio has it kind of disconnected and reconnected, but you sound very far away.
Okay, let me just double check my audio here.
Yeah, no worries. All right. I guess while he's doing that, I'm just going to start reading the chat. Andy is pretty interested. He's building a community for immigrant founders, and he has a podcast. Okay, that's awesome. Well, thanks for being here, Andy. Who Who else? We have different people coming from different places. I'm just going through the list. All right, Manu, you back with us?
I am back. Let me know if I did make some changes.
You're odd.
There we
Yeah,
go.
okay. You are back. Okay, you're you went back off. Let's just get. All right, you're back now.
There we go. I'm good.
Yeah, you are
Okay,
back. We can see you. Thanks. All right, I'm gonna hop off.
great. Apologize. Yeah, just going back to my story. First generation immigrant from Sri Lanka. Canada's home now for me. As I mentioned, in 1988, Sri Lanka started a civil war, a bloody civil war, and I was a 9-year-old kid then, and fortunate enough for my parents to really immigrate us to Canada around 1990. And having been through and seen war, it's something that really uh, provided me the ability to see what freedom is, and the freedom of speech, the ability for you to be who you are, and you can do what you want in a country like Canada or the US, some of the Western countries. And it's really as an immigrant being here, an amazing opportunity to take advantage of. But also, what I experienced in Sri Lanka has provided me, those adversities have made me, really appreciate and sort of geared me for my path in terms of as an immigrant through the journey of entrepreneurship. And my story is that in 2008 I started a video streaming technology company called DigiFlair, which we started as two founders, grew that business to about 120 people, and exited that business in 2016. So that was my front row seat of building a company from the ground up all the way to fortunate enough to be able to exit that business. From there, I had the fortune of investing in a lot of immigrant-led companies, and also being able to mentor with various accelerators in coaching a lot of the founders through their journey as they built their startup, and their passion around what the problems they were solving. And in last year, 2022 of September, I did launch a venture capital fund called Flair Ventures. And going back to my experience as an immigrant, building a company and having really invested in a lot of immigrant founders, the venture fund's main thesis is investing in immigrant founders, and that's our core focus. And we truly believe that, and we live that in terms of our core value. And we want to enable other immigrant founders to be successful in their journey in building their startups. And so when we look at the success of immigrant in US or in Canada as an example, um, they've had a profound impact in the startup and tech ecosystem. And as you saw, 55% of unicorns are founded by immigrants, and including immigrant founded Fortune 500 companies are responsible for about 13.5 million people, jobs. And so immigrants play a great deal in shaping these countries, and they are the bedrock of what the business and the economic overall growth is. And so we want to continue to foster and grow and maintain this ecosystem, because as more and more immigrants come into this country, we're able to really benefit from their not only their skill set, their visions, their creativity. And so this really fosters a lot of that success. And you see that here's amazing companies that everyone will recognize are actually founded by immigrants, and total collective value that's been created by immigrants is about $1.2 trillion when you look at these companies that have been built by immigrants, right? And so we want to continue to really continue that success and be able to really foster that immigrant success stories as well, so that new immigrants coming in can see that and believe that they can actually also achieve these dreams as well. From my perspective, immigrants really bring three unique advantages: resilience and determination. My personal story of having really going through a war at a very young age and seeing that, in my own eyes, has made, those adversities has made me really understand what, as a person, for me to be able to achieve what I want, and that determination is, and the drive is there, and allows me to be resilient in terms of what I'm trying to achieve. And this is not just unique to me. Many immigrants that are coming into this country have been through various types of adversities themselves, and that's been really what's been driving these immigrants to come here and really drive that. And I'm an example of that, and I really believe that that is a big advantage for immigrant founders. Second is really around the diverse perspective that immigrants bring. Being in a different country, different parts of the world, you have a breadth of understanding and a different perspective, and you're bringing that into the country, and you're able to really drive a new, fresh approach and in solving these problems. And so that's a great advantage to have as well. And the third one is really around global connection, right? As immigrants, you've been to different places. You're bringing those level of connections to as founders into these countries. And also, you actually, when your startup becomes a global reach, those experiences really help in terms of expanding the businesses to these various parts of the world. And so that is another advantage that immigrants bring to the table. From an economic impact, it's massive, right? Job creation is what really helps drive the middle class, the economy overall. And when, as immigrants, you're creating and contributing back to the economy, the country that really adopted you, you're able to now really make a valuable impact. And that's through job creation, which in results also helps boost the GDP. And so this is a massive impact that as founders, you can really be proud of. And so this is one of the ways that you can help the country succeed in terms of their overall growth as well. Now, with these success, definitely a lot of immigrant founders that I personally have had a chance to work with do face some challenges. And these are key challenges that, certainly you're not alone. And this is something that we look to really help at Flair. I work with a lot of other organizations to also help founders overcome these hurdles. The first one is really legal and regulatory barriers. In the US, certainly over the years, it's been one of the drivers to get new talent pool into the country, especially in the tech ecosystem. If you look at Silicon Valley or New York or some of the big tech hubs in the US, immigration was the way a lot of these talents were coming into the country. Now, in the recent years, that there has been challenges, and certainly getting visas for talent in the country has been a bit of a barrier. Hopefully that changes, and I know there are companies looking to really support and bring in additional legal support to help overcome some of those. And that's something that companies are trying to work with. Now in Canada, it's a slightly different story. We are very friendly to immigrant, especially the current administration is very friendly. We have student visa programs, we have startup visa programs, and really fostering immigration as a forefront to help drive the economy. Just last year alone, and it's probably an anomaly, we had about 1 million immigrants coming into the country, and they're averaging about 500K going forward in terms of immigrants coming into the country. So Canada's very much really taking advantage of this as a way to help drive the economic growth. Access to capital. This is another one where a lot of founders that I work with, really have difficulty securing investments. And generally, if you're in a particular area, like if you're in the valley, there's maybe a bit more support to help drive that. But if you're outside of it, this is something that startup founders have difficulties, and especially immigrant founders. Capital raises it's all about storytelling. It's like, why are you solving this problem? Why are you the people that really drive this and solve this problem and scale this up? And so really helping founders understand the way to tell their story, establish that level of network to really spread that word is something that we look to really help with. And I think founders, especially immigrant founders, have challenges in this area. And so this is something that's I've seen over and over, founders struggle with. And navigating unknown markets, as someone who's new into the ecosystem or new into the region, certainly may not have the inside understanding of how to navigate particular market segments. And so having that, understanding customer behavior, their buying habits, regulations, these are things that could be also a barrier for founders. Limited support for network, right? When you're new to a region as an immigrant founder, you don't have a network. You got to build that up. You got to build it over time. And so that maybe also limits your ability to either fundraise or to be able to go and acquire new customers. And so that those are something that's to be aware and know that you will face some of these challenges. And the last one is really around cultural differences, right? How a business is done in maybe in North America is different than from another region. I personally have gone through this. When I exited my company, the company that we ended up getting acquired was based in Sweden. Very different in terms of cultural barriers, and so I had to adapt how to work with that culture and then the decision making. And so, as immigrants coming into a new region, you really have to really pay attention to how business culture works and understands. And so, those are challenges that to be to keep in mind and know that as immigrant founders, like we need to be aware of all these challenges and how to overcome them and really set ourselves for success. And the other thing is really getting support from available support systems in the region will also help you really overcome some of these challenges. I personally, I'm a big believer in investing in immigrant founders, and that's part of the reason why I am my fund is focused on that. And there are three things that I believe that really resonates. High growth potential. Immigrant founders are fearless. They're willing to look at a sector and look at the big potential growth in that sector, and that's where I think you see a lot of the growth that come out of it. And so for me, betting on immigrant founders is based on really that high growth potential. Innovation is another thing. Immigrant founders, certainly have filed a lot more patents, and that's continuing to show that innovation is there. And again, part of that is having come from an outside environment into a new region, you're coming up with fresh new approaches and in terms of solving problems. And so I believe innovation is another asset in terms of why betting on immigrant founders. And the last is return on investment. I mean, the data is there. Immigrant founders are very successful. And for me, that's as a fund who is looking to actually take investor money and invest it in immigrant founders, I am betting on that the return is going to be much better. And the data proves that as well. And so these are three areas where I really look at as a whole why I'm betting on immigrant founders. And last, I want to leave you off with really around the power of immigrant founders, right? Immigrants play a vital role in the overall ecosystem. I mean, we are short on talent, and you need more immigration to help drive and fuel these innovations and new. Otherwise, as a country, we're going to get left behind, right? And so your talent pool is what really fosters this. I mean, you look at this AI race right now. If you look at that, like a lot of the vital key talent pool that are actually driving this are immigrants, and so it's really important for countries to really value immigrants as a key component as part of their ecosystem, and especially in the technology startup ecosystem. Innovation and growth. This is another aspects that I personally believe that that the mindset of immigrants, their experiences and adversities have it brings really that their ability to grow and really push the boundaries. And so that's another trait that the power of immigrant founders. And the last thing is their diversity, right? Immigrants are diverse. They come from all parts of the world, and they bring unique values and experiences that really foster the diversity, the culture, and it really brings that together to help this the innovation really flow. So those are the three power of immigrant founders. And I am a as an immigrant myself, I think we should continue to really bring more and more immigrants into this country, and I hope governments will really realize that and continue to allow for that to come, because we without the immigrants, when you look at the United States, it's like a lot of the foundational things and what has been there is because of great immigration success stories and entrepreneurs that have come through. And so I hope they continue to really foster that and improve on that. With that, yeah, I want to stop and really answer any questions on that. But I will leave off with just maybe a tad bit on Flair Ventures. Flair Venture, we invest in pre-seed, early stage companies. Primarily, we're currently just focused on US and Canada as our primary focus area. But we're pre-seed. We tend to really invest in as early as possible. We're okay writing first checks, and we really hope to back amazing, exceptional immigrant founders. Thank you.
Mano, that was great. I empathize so much, and I think this was very well put. I immigrated to Toronto in 2016, and actually one of the first things I did was I tried attending a bunch of networking events and stuff, and it was really tough to like just figure out how to get your stride going. And then I obviously through those meetups I came across FI. I joined an FI program, and the kind of the rest is history. And now I obviously do some stuff with them. So very I love the presentation, and yeah, like I think very interesting ethos you have. I think even when we first spoke like a few months ago, I'm like, I have never heard. I've spoken to a lot of VCs. I've never heard any VC that says like, hey, we're only going to try and invest immigrant founders at the pre-seed level and give them that shot.
Yeah,
but I think
and it's important because I think pre-seed is a stage where a lot of that early bet happens, right? And I mean, it's easier for companies to or investors to put money in like seed or Series A, because then it's like there's product validation, there's market fit. Whereas pre-seed, we're betting on the founders, and it really that's where a lot of our focus is. And I truly believe that that immigrant founders have this superpower to be able to make that difference.
Yeah, 100%, fully on it. It's also that mentality, right? That hustle, like let's go and go.
Yeah.
And it's not just for being a founder. It's like maybe it's part of your founding team, or like someone that's important to the executive team. We'll jump into questions. Folks, please just start throwing in a bunch of your Q&A in the Q&A portion, not the chat, just so then other people can upload it and we can bring it up. What I wanted to do just before we do that is I'm just going to share a bunch of links in the chat. Some people are DMing me and asking me more about the Founder Institute. Founder Institute, we're a pre-seed accelerator. Mano is a mentor in Toronto. I'm a mentor in the GCC chapter. I also am the co-director over here. You essentially go through a 16-week program to take your idea pretty much to the next level, from ideation to like really to launch, I would say. Um, so we run these events purely for educational purposes to educate more of the entrepreneur and startup community. We have a bunch of great content. I just link blasted everyone in the chat. Go there, learn more. We have some other content. Like the last two are resources. We have these pillar pages on how to do funding, how to start validation, and all that. And then we also have like these things called boot camps, which are kind of like master classes. We're running next week and the following week on like dilution and go to market. So very founder friendly, founder resources all the way. So please take advantage of that. I wish I had more of this stuff when I was starting out. With that being said, let's jump into Q&A, the most fun part of this and the things that I really like. Um, so Colby is asking, you should be able to see it now. If you're a starting company today, what would it be after you've gone through an acquisition, you're doing the VC stuff now? Like, is there any industries that kind of excite you or any technologies?
Yeah, I would say. I mean, I'm primarily come from the B2B software space. So for me, I would still go back to that space because that's very relevant, and I have a lot of experience in that. And so, anything in solving business to business problems is where I would focus my time. Certainly, AI is hot. I love the sector. I still code. My background is computer science, so I dabbling a little bit in terms of playing with these models, and so something along that line to help solve a business problem would be it.
Okay, so are you just curious? Are you just not interested in e-com or direct to consumer, or it's just not like your
I
skill
look
set?
at when I bet on founders, I look at founder fit, right? And founder fit is really, when you're solving a particular problem, why are you passionate about this problem? Also, do you have experience in this space that you're trying to solve this problem for, right? Because it matters. And so if you unless you have a unique skill set from a technology perspective, um, but the domain knowledge is important. So if you're doing an e-com business and you have zero background on e-com and you don't have anybody that has that on your team, it's hard, right? Because now as an investor, my thing is like, am I paying to learn also, right? And so that's part of the reason, like my choice of like, if I go back to do something that I want to do, I look at founder fit, and I have a lot of experience in B2B software and building B2B software. So that's where I would go back because that's where I have the expertise in.
Got it. That's awesome. All right, I'm just gonna keep bringing these up. I'm gonna try to at least seven, and then we'll try and break
Yeah.
up for networking. So Mujwa is asking, what information would you want to see from a company that you're looking to invest in? We can make that a little bit more generic. If we have founders, we have 80% founders in the audience. If they were going to go if they were going to go pitch for investment, like what is something you would like to see as a VC, not just you as at Flair?
Yeah.
I know that's a large question, so if you want to just bullet point it, that'd be helpful.
Absolutely. I think I'll go back to sort of I'll echo what I just said. Um, Especially if I'm speaking particularly in pre-seed stage, your team matters. Your composition of your team matters. So, like, who are your founding team, that or the core founders? Because you should have a mixed skill set. You shouldn't have overlapping skill sets. So that's very important because if you have one business person and one tech person, if let's say if there's two co-founders, that's a good balance because you've got a good mix of skill sets. Where if you have two overlapping skill set, if you have both are tech and you don't have a business person, then you don't have a good composition of team. And I would say in pre-seed, there's a big priority given to teams, and especially if you're a first-time founder, right? Second is the problem you're solving, and if you have any particular insight into a problem. So, if you're solving a problem that's in a saturated or crowded space, do you have a particular angle that is or a unique insight that is no one else has, and that it's going to give you an advantage? If you're going into a totally net new space, how are you actually going to really solve this problem quickly and show validation? So it's around those two are the biggest things we look for. And as an investor, you have to understand is like, and this is one of the things that I would advise a lot of founders is really pay attention to understanding investor mindset. So a venture capital investor is looking for companies that are going to hit, 50, $100 million in revenue in, let's say, 7, 8 years, right? And so you have to show that you can get there, that you have to create that vision. And so the particular problem you're solving you have to be able to show that this problem is big enough that I can get there and I have the right team to really get there. And so because we take investor money and we're investing in companies, and we're under pressure to make sure we show returns, right? We got to show companies that are marked up because they raised subsequent rounds. And so that's what we look at from our lens, right? So, as founders, you should be aware of that. And you should go, okay, like, if I'm pitching a VC, this is kind of what they're thinking of as an investment. So when you're pitching your pitch story, those all have to like align to really create a compelling story that an investor goes, I believe in you, and I want to put money behind it.
Yeah, I think that was a really eloquent way of putting everything. Because it's so we've covered passion, we covered how big the market is and stuff. So you've hit a lot of the right key elements. We have several questions here more about you, Mana, and Flair. Do you want to just take like a minute to explain like how much did you guys typically invest in, like
Yeah.
what type of checks you write? Yeah, because there's questions here like are you willing to invest in people outside the US and Canada? So like how big is your fund? What are the typical check sizes? Just so that will get rid of not get rid of, but answer a lot of the
Yeah,
questions.
no, absolutely. So we're a small fund. I'm a solo GP, so I'm the only investor in the fund, and so we're a $5 million fund. We write average check size is about 150K at pre-seed level. So we're co-investors. We don't lead, but we're happy to come in early and be the first or second check, and help you with the raise, the complete the raise, and find a lead investor or bring in additional investors into the fold. So that I have done that many times for other companies, and then in terms of we in terms of our decision making, we're fairly quick, because it's I'm the one that's making that decision, and our process is generally we do a first call. We do the quick call to really understand the company, the team, and then we would do a subsequent calls just to really do a deep dive into the team, the product, and learn a little bit more about the overall approach in use solving that problem. And we're after that we'll make a decision if we're in or out, right? And so give or take, within about a week or so, we can make a decision. So that's how we go about it in terms of our process. And in terms of sector focus, we don't have a sector focus. We don't do hardware based and we don't do biotech. It's just those are just for our check size. Just doesn't make sense. And we tend to generally we would go across the board. I have one fintech company that's B2C. I have one company that's a data company that's an enterprise. So we are in the spectrum because we invest early. We try to be more focused on the founding team.
Perfect. Just can you clarify then are you investing only in North America or is it just strictly
Yeah.
US
So
and Canada?
right now, just given our fund size, and the capacity that we have, we strictly focus on, say, 60 to 70% in Canada, the rest in the US.
Okay, and there's some people here asking, can they pitch you and stuff? Like, what's the best way to reach out to you, or like, do they need to kind of get a
Yeah,
warm intro?
absolutely. Just if you go to flairvc.com, there's a link to submitting a pitch, and just mention that you were on this talk. And I mean, we respond to every pitch. That's one thing I do is, regardless if we are yes or no, we respond back. Just sometimes there might be a little bit of delay just on the bandwidth, but we make sure to reply back to all founders that submit a pitch.
Okay, perfect. You guys, I hope that answers that. That should answer a lot of the questions around Mano and his fund. I'm gonna keep going. We are at 45, I think. Yeah, so let's do maybe a few more. I just want to make sure there's enough time for networking. Um, I really like this question by Amir from Toronto asking, do you find that you see certain attributes you've noticed in successful immigrants that and like what are those attributes that so founders can on this call can actually go and like develop those skills if they don't already have it?
Yeah, I would say the key attributes that makes an immigrant successful is really expanding a network is important, and and getting yourself out there. So when you're trying to network and you're like it can be overwhelming, right? But I think it's important is that attending events, connecting with individuals, and then really looking ways where you can now build on those connections is a good way to really expand. So expanding a network is very important because in this early on, it's really that's a very helpful way to really fundraise. If you don't have a co-founder, it's a great way to find a co-founder. Recruiting, it's a great way to attract some good talent because early on you need to, you're not going to be able to pay a lot in terms of market value. So you're going to need to, that person, you have to convince them that they need to be part of this journey and join the company. So networking is one key thing that I would really, really emphasize, and just get out of your comfort zone, go out, network, and you'd be surprised. If you ask, most of the time, people I find is like they're scared to ask. If you just ask, people are willing to help. The second, I think, is it's the mindset. You have to. I think this is where I find immigrants are a bit more, maybe index higher on this, is sort of persevering. It's like startup is all about, it's a lot of ups and downs, and there's a lot of downs. Like you have a lot of challenges, and and if it was easy, everyone would do it, right? And so really staying core and not having an emotional attachment to the problem, but really making sure that you push through and just execute. There's a saying, the reason people say it's like ideas a dime a dozen, it really comes down to execution. So just having that mindset of just like really pushing through and not giving up is very important.
I love that. That should be like on everyone's t-shirt and like or tattooed somewhere. It's like, you just gotta keep at it.
Keep at it. Yeah.
Cool. Let's do a couple more here. We have a couple questions. I'm just gonna on female immigrant founders. So like any stat, have you come across any like stats or anything that you're willing to share about, or anything specific when you see a female immigrant founder? We had like two, three questions about that. So trying to summarize it.
Yeah. I don't have a particular stat just specifically on female founders. There I want to see more female founders. Just in general, I think the data shows that they are more and more successful. Like in my fund, I have, out of the 7 investments we made so far, 2 companies are full female founders. Like both of them are, they're each of them have 2 founders, and they're both female founders. And I'm a big believer that there should be more female founders because they bring a whole new dynamics to the founder mindset, and we need more of them. So I encourage you to keep networking, and happy to help in any way if anybody's looking for support as well there.
Perfect. Thank you so much for the offer. Let's what are we, okay, we're at 42. Let's try to do a little bit. I'm trying to get as many as I can. Um, this one is interesting. Viral is asking, about the US, but this is specific to the US, but I think you can also apply to Canada. Is like, you're an entrepreneur, you're a founder, you're kind of in the system already. You choose to go and launch your company, and then you're going to overcome certain hurdles there that like it might be due to your immigration status, in both countries. What is like what's your advice on that? Again, it's a loaded question there, but it'd be interesting to like. I think I've met a lot of immigrant founders who maybe start in one country and then they're like, "Hey, I can't be here because of my work visa, or I have to go back home, do family stuff." It's like, What would your advice be towards them, or like, is it like just pack up shop, work remotely, like what's your take?
Yeah, I mean, so if U.S. and Canada, they have very different approaches in this, and I think U.S. is, um, if you're in the U.S., my advice would be is there are venture firms that specifically support like on a legal side as well. So we don't have the capacity to do something like that, but there are larger venture funds that do provide. So if you're a founder, you can certainly work with the venture firms. They have legal support to really figure out avenues to help you with that. And the venture firms are, there's Unshackled Ventures in the US, also One Way Ventures in the US, and Geek Ventures is another one. They're all like, they have a similar thesis of immigrant focused thesis. Another way to do it is I would look at maybe finding a co-founder that has U.S. Green card or citizenship, and I think you have to get to a certain level of revenue in your startup before you can transfer your visa to that startup. And so maybe I've seen founders where they're creative. They work, in a company that provided them the visa, and they, on their off time, they're working on the startup and getting it to a level where now there's enough revenue that you can then look to then transfer your visa. That's again, it's not a bulletproof way to approach it, but there's a lot of creative ways people look at this and approach it, and that in Canada, there are a couple of programs you could do, like start a visa. So if you're outside of US, or like, sorry, if you're in the US, or if you're outside of anywhere in Canada, outside of Canada in the world, you can apply for startup visa. It takes a bit of, I think it's like 18 months, 12 to 18 months, I think. And there are multiple like companies or organizations that focus on this in helping provide companies relocate to Canada. That's an option as well. So, if you're in the US and you need a place, like Canada might be an option for you to, set up your shop there, because you might have a better chance as well. So that's another option to look at.
Okay, awesome, super super helpful. Let's do one more, and then we'll kind of wrap up our networking. Um, there's a lot of commonalities on these questions. We talked about co-founders, we talked about teams, we talked about actual investment ethos and how to like work with investors. So try and find something. I'm trying to find you a hard one, man. I'm trying to like try to get you. I'll just go with this because it's at the top, and I think it's still pretty good. It's about pitching, but like, what are your biggest red flags when it comes to pitching, and you kind of don't want founders to do? I think it'd probably be a good question to end on.
Yeah, so pitching is, you basically have a short amount of time to grab somebody's attention. And so the red flags are really, you know, I would say one is like you're pitching using decks, and not really telling a story. And so I think the red flags are, if I were to say, is like really learn how to tell a story. And what I would recommend is, like, when you're pitching VCs, start with angel investors, pitch them, get better, get feedback. Always, once you finish a pitch, my recommendation is always like send a note back and say, hey, also, like, do you have feedback on my pitch? Did that resonate? Did and you'd be surprised, they'll give you feedback. And so start with, like, angel investors, small VCs, like my fund, where we're a small check, and before you go to pitch like big VCs, because when you get to the big VCs, you really want to refine your pitch, and you want to know. So storytelling is important. And second is, don't start off the pitch with, like, here's my solution. Like, what start with the problem is what you're really looking to solve, and what insight you have in that problem really helps frame the pitch as you go through with that. So the problem, and then really then you follow up with a solution and the team. Those are like, especially early pre-seed pitches. That's kind of like the thing. And then if you have traction, validation, definitely that's important. But make it so that it's easy to understand. Like I see a lot of pitches. I look at it and I go, I have no clue what this is, like what you're solving, what the solution is. I'm like confused. Like, so what I would recommend is, like, once you do a pitch, give it to someone who doesn't understand tech and say, can you read it? And do you really understand what I'm pitching? And that's a good way to just like assess. That would be my feedback on pitches. And there's a ton of examples. And sometimes, like, I hate to say, it's like some founders don't do the homework. And so if I see a crappy pitch, it just shows that the lack of effort that's put into that. And this is what you're trying to get in front of investors to raise money. So you should put a lot of care into it. One tip I would have is, like, if you're outreaching to investors, don't just attach a pitch, attach a 2-minute video of your pitch, because your pitch deck is flat. It's like you just read it, versus if you can do a 2-minute pitch of you going through that pitch on a video, that will resonate to me more than me just looking at a deck and just assessing it. So that would be a good conversion on getting calls.
Yeah, I love that. I think, especially like 5 years ago, people wouldn't really do that. But I think now, post COVID, and when people, like investors, are used to the remote environment, that's great. Like, I highly recommend other founders on the line to start doing that. Just wanted to wrap up here before we do. Mano's talked about pitching. We host a pitch practice event. It's free. It's exactly the same event like this, but you have 6, 7 tables. You go pitch one mentor, get feedback, go and pitch another mentor, get another feedback. So it's a very fast way to get feedback on your pitch. And we have a find a co-founder event as well. Both get about 200 people live to show up. Those are free to attend. Take advantage of it, utilize it. Like, we run them every 6 weeks. So, and you can meet somebody from like West Africa all the way from Dubai to Canada. Like, it's a really great environment to get as much feedback on your pitches and maybe find a potential co-founder. All right. With that being said, we have a few minutes for networking. Mano, thank you so much for today's event. Thank you so much for your time, answering the audience's questions. Any last minute feedback or last thing you want to kind of end the audience with? Any words of inspiration or whichever?
First of all, thank you to Founders Institute for having me and share my story. And I'm a true believer that immigrant founders will have the biggest impact in both in Canada, the U.S., and other countries that look at immigration as a way to help the economy grow. To founders out there, if you're passionate about a problem, put in the work. And get out there and pitch. I think it's important for you to just get out there and talk to people and really express what you're trying to solve. We need more startup. This is the best time to build. I built my company in 2008 during a recession, and I'm telling you, right now is the best time to build a company. So power to you, and look forward to hearing from some of you.
Perfect. I think that's a great source of inspiration for everyone in the West Coast, for them starting their day. If they're in East Coast, they're kind of midway through their day. And if you're someone like me in Asia, we're kind of ending our day, but it's inspiration for the full day. Thanks, Mano. Folks, don't go anywhere. We're going to end the session, but you'll kind of see all these virtual tables pop up. Join them, network with each other for the next 10 minutes, and then we'll see you at the next few events that we're hosting. All right.
Thanks again.
Enjoy your evening, everyone. Thanks.